Welcome back. Our countdown of the top 10 in 2013 now shifts to the 8th top story of the year, the rise in tourism. PNC's Rosel Romanes has more. Rosel?
Thanks, Clint. As the Guam Visitors Bureau celebrates its 50th anniversary, it also celebrated the news that preliminary visitor arrivals for the month of March broke all records in the history of tourism. Former PNC reporter Josh Dikenko has that story.
Preliminary data shows 136,278 visitors came to Guam in March 2013, breaking August 1995's previous record of 135,710 visitors. Guam Visitors Bureau General Manager Carl Pangilinan says they are pleased that March has become the best month in the history of tourism arrivals, and he attributes the growth in numbers to the entire tourism industry working together to attract more visitors to Guam.
I think the industry as a whole has really pulled together to put forth a very worthy product, an attractive product, highlighting our culture, and these are just a lot of the things that are attracting groves of visitors, and we're really pleased with the results.
According to the data, total fiscal year arrivals are up by 9%. Japan arrivals have risen 5.6%, while Korea arrivals also grew by 44.6%. Arrivals for China are up by 7.7%, and Russian visitor numbers have increased by 317.7%. Pangilinan mentions GVB is still on a mission to add more hotel rooms to address the continued growth of arrivals. He also says Japan is still the island's top market, but feels the tourism industry has worked hard to also diversify other visitor markets.
Josh, that's always going to be our number one market, and so something that we're always going to care about the Japanese visitor. But I think we're doing our job really to diversify and increase our marketing efforts to some of the other markets, such as Korea, Taiwan, and Russia.
Pangilinan says GVB has multiple events to keep their 50th anniversary momentum going. They just completed the Guam International Marathon, and he thanks the volunteers for helping to take care of the 2,100 runners that participated. He also says they have big things in store for May, especially since it is also Tourism Month.
We're planning a large barbecue festival down at Pleasure Island. It's going to be the first time that we're going to do something in this regard. We want to kind of get it under our belts and fine-tune the actual event before pitching it on a global scale next year, possibly to our tour operators. But we're really excited about that.
GVB is also preparing for its annual Micronesia Island Fair, which was moved to May because of previous issues with logistics and the weather. Pangilinan adds another highlight for Tourism Month is the upcoming China Outbound Travel Market Symposium on May 22nd. He says experts will be talking about the China Visa Waiver Program and how Guam can get to know the Chinese traveler.
We'll get into some of the specifics with regard to the China traveler, what they look out for, some of the things they enjoy doing, and what we can expect to them from a business perspective. So.
Josh Dikenko, PNC News.
Moving on to number 7 in the countdown is a controversial gaming tax measure. Bill 19 generated much discussion on whether or not gaming devices like Liberty machines should be taxed and using that money to help the hospital pay off its vendors. Back in July, Governor Eddie Calvo has announced that he would let Bill 19 lapse into law at midnight. He also released a special address explaining his reasons for allowing the controversial bill to become law. PNC's Kevin Kerrigan reports.
Tonight at midnight, Bill number 19 will lapse into law without my signature. And when that happens, nothing will change except that the hospital will get more money. There won't be any slot machines at the stores, and there won't be casinos popping up. And bingo, cockfighting, kiddie rides, and Liberty machines will continue.
The governor said he was surprised how the measure morphed into something bigger than it started out to be. Reiterating the review of his legal counsel on Friday, he explained how this one measure started out as 2 separate bills to increase taxes on existing gaming. One bill to benefit island sports facilities, the other to benefit the hospital. Both then became one.
But not before some senators turned the whole debate upside down. The entire discussion became about gambling. And the twisted irony is the bill finally sent to my desk did nothing to limit or expand gambling on Guam. And whether these senators meant it that way is for them to answer to you.
However, the governor said he decided not to sign the bill for 2 reasons.
The first is how the way this bill was handled. And the second is the amendment to ban bingo and cockfighting that didn't receive any public hearing. Now, fortunately, the amendment was defective because of a missing appendix. The bill doesn't have the effect of banning bingo and cockfighting because of a mistake made. And that reinforces my first reason for not signing this measure.
The governor also chose not to veto it either for what he called a more important reason. It does provide some funding for the hospital.
At the end of this month-long debate on gambling, what do we have to show for it? A divided community, a war of words, a shameless showdown about an issue that just popped up out of nowhere. The product of this debate was a bill that did nothing about gambling, but actually does something meaningful for anyone who ever has to go to that hospital. And that's almost all of us. And so if casinos will remain illegal, and your hospital gets more money, that's a good enough reason to allow this bill to become law.
If lawmakers want to ban all gambling, the governor urged them to introduce a separate bill to do just that. And he questioned why the Attorney General dropped the case in the first place against those controversial gaming machines.
And if that should ever happen, I would caution senators to act with care and not haste. And I would advise something else. The people of this island voted several times to keep casinos illegal, but they have never spoken out about bingo, cockfighting, and Liberty machines. And if the AG believes that these machines are illegal, then why did he drop the lawsuit and not pursue charges? It's because the AG has written that the law itself is ambiguous and conflicting.
The governor concluded by urging lawmakers to turn away from the issue now and concentrate on more important things.
This entire process has revealed some flaws in the system. And grave revelations were made about how bills are replaced with major amendments, or how things appear out of nowhere after senators vote on certain versions of a bill. This is not the first time that this has happened, and there have been more important bills passed using these same tactics, from whole budget bills substituted to abortion bills. I hope this opens a new conversation by the media about this process. But more importantly, I hope this whole saga is over. In my book, bingo players and cockfighters aren't causing any problems. Families and children like to go to Chuck E. Cheese and the amusement park at the mall, and the carnival is doing just fine. It's really time for the legislature to move its focus back onto the real issues that are facing all of us.
Kevin Kerrigan, PNC News.
We're now at the sixth top story of the year, and PNC's Betsy Brown joins us in the studio with more. Betsy?
Thanks, Roselle. We take you back now to June when news broke of how federal sequestration affected Guam, with proposed furlough notices sent out to 2,000 Department of Defense civilian employees on Guam when they learned that they would be impacted by sequestration beginning July 8th. Former PNC reporter Josh Chikenko has more.
Joint Region Marianas has been preparing Naval Base Guam and Andersen Air Force Base for the proposed furloughs that may begin less than a month from now. Deputy Public Affairs Officer Colleen San Nicolas Perez is one of the civilian employees that may be impacted by sequestration.
Sequestration requires approximately 88 hours that need to be reduced. So you are looking at approximately 11 work days. The furloughs are going to commence on July 8th and it will continue to the end of this fiscal year.
She says this is a reduction of the original estimate of 22 work days. She also mentions about 200 people may be potentially exempted from the furlough process.
There are those that may be potentially exempted, and that is based on their positions to preserve life and protect property.
San Nicolas Perez already received her proposed furlough notice, and while she can't speak on how everyone else is handling the news, she personally feels difficult times are ahead for everyone. She and her colleagues are bracing for Furlough Mondays and how this will affect their morale and finances.
I won't speak or speculate on the entire workforce and how they are handling this, but based on my discussions with other colleagues and based on my perspective, the furloughs are going to have a negative impact on our quality of life, our day-to-day living, our families.
She adds she is appreciative of the feedback they receive from their leadership to keep them informed and guide them on what they should do. She knows this has helped prepare her for the 20% reduction on their paychecks. So Nicholas Perez adds she continues to focus on the positive side of things and has the support of her husband, child, and parents.
From my perspective, from my opinion, what we are going to do in the next several months is just try to look on the bright side.
Last month, Congresswoman Madeline Bordallo issued a statement calling the furlough a reminder that Congress must act now to fix sequestration as a whole and not on a case-by-case basis. Josh Tikenko, PNC News.
Well, don't go away. PNC's Year in Review will be back after these messages.